I absolutely love playing through Dynasty and franchise modes in older football games. In fact, that's one of the reasons why I still play College Football Revamped on the PlayStation 3, and I find myself the majority of my time playing the PlayStation 3 or some of those older consoles. But recently I actually turned back on my Xbox One for the first time in quite a few weeks to play Madden 20. Not Madden 21 or 22, but back on Madden 20, a game that I picked up for $5 at GameStop, which is to say I really got it for free because I have that $5 certificate I get every month for being a part of their Power Up Rewards membership that I'm not even really want to be a part of. I just want the magazine because look, Game Informer that you get free with the GameStop membership is like one of the last true print gaming magazines. And to be able to get that and some $5 certificates every month for $20, it's a deal. Even if you don't like GameStop, it's a deal. And I was actually able to get this game for free because of it. So I owned Madden 19, still have it. Bought Madden 21 when it came out for something like $27. It was a deal, but ultimately I ended up selling it for around $40 a couple weeks later after I got 21 because I didn't like it. So I wasn't going to buy 22. I wanted to play a Madden game. 19 isn't great, and I didn't get rid of that one because it wasn't worth anything. But now that Madden 20 is so cheap, I found myself picking this one up and trying it out because its gameplay is better than Madden 19, and it does have a feature that I talked about back on Madden 19 that really excites me, and that's something that's completely user created by xTOOTSxMAGOOTS. If you remember my video back on Madden 19, he had created a 20-year franchise with draft classes where you could kind of rewrite history. So on Madden 20, if you pick this game up for $5 and you want to play the franchise mode, get yourself over to the community files, download xTOOTSxMAGOOTS's 2000 roster. In fact, he actually has a 1990 or 1991 roster too if you want to start even further back, but I started my franchise in 2000. Download all of his draft classes. You'll be able to sort 2000 and do the real draft class each year going forward. So the guys that were available to draft in 2001, they'll be there for you to draft. You can choose who you want, and you can build your franchise that started out accurately with an accurate roster in 2000 on forward with these players that actually really did play in the NFL and get drafted in the years that he makes them available. Now, this isn't like a 100% accurate type of deal in playing just with the 2000 roster. I noticed that some of the real depth players on the Vikings roster, maybe some of the third strings are the guys that belonged on the 2020 roster and they didn't get deleted or they didn't get replaced. And the same goes for the draft classes. Oftentimes it's like the first 2 rounds are accurate, and then, there might be some guys mixed in the later rounds, your Tom Brady's, whatever, the guys that were really good that came in the later rounds. They're in there, but there's also a lot of made-up players in those later rounds as well. Because understandably, the guy made like 30 files for this. He didn't spend time making every single player that, turned out to be a draft bust. If it was a high-profile draft bust, he's in there. If it was a 5th-round draft bust, they're probably not. And if you've never played Madden 20 before, like I hadn't prior to this, you may be unaware of the fact that there seems to be some sort of glitch with downloading user-created files and actually opening them on this game. For whatever reason, I had to download every one of xTOOTSxMAGOOTS's files, get them all saved, and then once I actually tried to open them, they weren't there to open, so I needed to restart the game, completely close the game, exit it, reopen it, download just the 2000 roster file, or if you want to start in 1990, download the 1990 roster file again, then load that file, start the franchise, get the franchise saved. Then once you actually go to import a draft class in whatever week of the season where that becomes available, when you do that, you'll need to download the draft class again, even though you already have it downloaded, but you'll need to download it again for the reason that there's just some sort of glitch that I can find being prevalent as early as the first week the game came out, and EA, of course, didn't decide to fix it. So it's playable, but you have to get past that hurdle. So while this is very similar to the files that xTOOTSxMAGOOTS had on Madden 19, again, like I said, Madden 20 tends to play better in the gameplay department. Are these great games by any means? No, and the franchise mode is shallow. The relocation teams haven't improved in years. I get it, but at the end of the day, I think that this user-created file system actually kind of adds a good level of depth to this game. As far as I know, there aren't any major NFL games that came out prior to Madden 19 that allowed for you to import a custom draft class, unless you count previous Maddens where you could import the NCAA football draft class, which I think was an awesome feature, but as far as standalone games like, NFL 2K5, something like that, you didn't have the ability to create this whole custom draft class, or at least people didn't. And then even in the modding scene, you didn't have people creating these 20-year plus franchise experiences where you could kind of recreate history. So in a game that has absolutely atrocious, just boring scouting to be done in order to prepare for the draft, I think it's actually funner to just skip the scouting altogether. Just look at the names on the board. Like, are these the guys that I remember being good? Do I think they're going to work out to be good in this game? Because obviously xTOOTSxMAGOOTSx, the guy who made this all, the ratings are, to my understanding, ones that he made up. I don't think that he actually took the proper ratings out of the older Maddens and imported those. I think that he just kind of created the ratings on his own will. That's my understanding. And because of that, Dante Culpepper here runs a lot slower than I would have had him running. I know he was no Michael Vick, but his is pretty slow. So as someone that really enjoys doing fantasy drafts for franchises in this game, I absolutely love this set of files because it's almost like one continuous long fantasy draft. I mean, every year you're picking up new guys. And you'll also see in this gameplay that Dan Marino is playing for the Chiefs. That's not a mistake. He left some of these older players that retired in the late 90s or early 2000s in here as free agents so that teams could sign them. I think someone like Barry Sanders is in here. A few other quarterbacks that retired in the late 90s as well are available to be signed as free agents. Their overalls are still pretty good, but obviously they're up there in age, and that does matter in franchise mode. So that's an interesting aspect to throw in there as well, is you kind of have the opportunity to extend some of these guys' careers, which typically isn't even a feature in Madden, but just because of the way this file is set up, is actually a possibility, and I think that that's pretty cool in its own right. So if you guys haven't yet and you want to spend $5 on getting a football game, I think Madden 20 is actually the way to go, particularly in regard to the fact that Madden 22 isn't anything thrilling. It seems very similar to what we've seen in the past, and that's obviously what I anticipated. So for $5, you'll pick this up, play through some awesome user-created files, get a 20, 30-year franchise experience out of it. That is just mind-blowing to me. It's a great value. Is it the best playing gameplay-wise football game out there? Obviously not. Before you can get on modern systems, this is definitely a great experience in terms of just the wealth of older players you get access to and the amount of years you can really play through and have a good franchise here. Thank you guys for watching. I'm Bailey, and I will see you in the next video.